All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of the Toon podcast. We are the Southern Hemisphere's best and only dedicated Newcastle United outlet here in the Southern Hemisphere. Joining me for this preview of the Liverpool game this weekend is Keegan, who's finally having a Geordie summer. How are you finding the heat down in Geelong there, mate?
It's shit. I don't mind the hot, but this is too hot. There's 36 today and 37 tomorrow. Working outside can just all go and get in the bin. So I'm happily unemployed at the moment, which is good.
Well, roll on Monday when you start your new job and you've got aircon 24/7. It's the life we all love.
Yes.
And
then
but as
I won't know
the
what
title
to do.
suggests, this is a preview for the up-and-coming Liverpool game this weekend, which is 3:30 in the morning kickoff for me here in Queensland, 4:30 in the morning kickoff for Keegan down in the dark parts of Australia, and it's a 5:30 afternoon kickoff in the UK. You've got to love these early morning kickoffs, don't you, mate?
No, they're the graveyard shift, these ones. They're the absolute pits. You're 4:30, you can't get back to sleep. Like by the time the game finishes at 6:30. So you might as well just call it a 4:30 start to your day and hopefully you're happy by 6:30.
The last 3 league games, the last 4 games have been the same kickoff time. They were an absolute pain in the arse.
Yeah. It's like I said, we're on the graveyard shift at the moment. So can't wait for next weekend and get another couple of hours earlier than normal. So that's not too bad.
Yeah, there's only a small matter of a cup final game next weekend. Just a little game, not that important. But just before we get cracking on with this preview, just a little bit of housekeeping this one. So if you aren't already subscribed to the channel on YouTube or you don't like us on our socials, please do so. It really helps us out massively in improving the channel, getting better guests on and the like. And again, smash that like button if you're liking this video. And if you haven't already subscribed, again, please do so. We do have our members channel on YouTube as well. It's only $1.49 here in Australia, which is about 85p back in the UK. Gives you a few additional perks, but again, helps us out massively. So if you want to do that, by all means do so. And one other thing as well, you may not know this, but the Toon Under merchandise shop is now open, and we've got Keegan, who is just going to model one of our own shirts that we have, which is designed by our very own Lee. So it's a Bruno 39 Brazil shirt, wearing his famous white wig, which I donned on for a few weeks, or at least attempted to. Absolute quality products. Head over to the Toon Under shop. You can see the link on the website, and I'll also include one in the description on our YouTube page. But let's get into this. So, Keegan, home game against Liverpool. We all know what happened at Anfield earlier on in the season. Would you see this as a little bit of a revenge job?
I don't know about revenge. There's been a lot of water go under the bridge since that game, but I've got no doubt that it will be used by Eddie in some capacity either during the week or before the game. And I reckon there'll be 50,000 screaming Geordies who definitely haven't forgotten what happened that night at Anfield. So I think the crowd will be absolutely red hot for this game as well. Be on the cordials all afternoon. Come 5:30, they'll be absolutely jumping out of their skin, I reckon.
Let's hope so, because just reading on social media, just after the West Ham game, a lot of people were complaining that the crowd wasn't its usual ferocious, loud amphitheatre that it normally is. What do you reckon's caused? Are just the run of games not getting results, or do you think potentially as a fan base, some are getting a little bit too complacent? Hope that's not the case, obviously.
No. I think West Ham was a bit of an outlier. I think the come down from the semi-final against Southampton was real, and I mean it was, what was it, 3 or 4 days later, that game as well. And I think just the emotional roller coaster for that 90 minutes. I mean, no one I really think felt safe until the final whistle went. Really, there was always that little sort of sense of doubt, and especially after Bruno got that red card as well. It was more a case of hanging on rather than storming home. So I think that took a lot out of everyone, and I'm pretty sure You let us know in the comments and stuff. But the season ticket holders sort of had their seats for that Southampton game as well. So it wasn't just your normal ring-in crowd for a cup game. It was actually the season ticket holders were in their seats and stuff like that. So, I mean, it is a big ask for them to sort of ride that roller coaster and then back up again 3 days later against, like, no offense, but West Ham they don't bring the best out of everyone. So I think it was hard for him to get up for that game as well. And then obviously the Bournemouth trip's a long trip, which can also sometimes take it out of you. But yeah, I've got no doubt this weekend it's going to be an absolute red hot atmosphere right from the jump.
Yeah, I hope it's a fire pit or a bear pit, whatever you want to call it. And like I say, I reckon they're going to use a lot of that ammunition from that reverse fixture at Anfield. A lot of those fans may have been at that game that are going to be at the game this weekend, so they'll remember it all too well. And I think Fabian Schär's got a score to settle, because when that final whistle went, he wanted to pretty much chin that entire Liverpool bench, from what I remember rightly.
He wasn't the only one.
Yeah, no, he wasn't the only one, but he was definitely a bit more vocal than anybody else, and hopefully we can wipe that toothy grin from Klopp's face.
That's smug prick.
Final whistle. Yeah. Now, getting on to the game, obviously we mentioned the kickoff time is 5:30 and everything like that, so plenty of time for people to get into the pub, get a few frosties beforehand, a couple of brown ales into the system. Is these late kickoffs for the last few games, is that something that is potentially affecting the performance that we have, because we know what previous results have gone our way and maybe adds a little bit extra pressure to the game?
I don't know about affecting them. It affects me. It really fucks up my whole fucking Sunday. I don't think so. I mean, I'm not, what's the rulings? I know in the AFL, players and staff have to actually hand their phones in, so they can't be on their phones. So, like, there's no doubt that results would filter through to them. But I don't really subscribe. Like, they've got enough on their plate to worry about what other teams are doing at the moment. Like, there's so much tactics and instructions, not just for us and how to play, but how we want to stop the opposition playing as well. Like, I don't really think that they think about that much, that too much, I should say. But maybe, it's really hard. I've been bouncing around a lot the last probably 2 weeks with our form, and it's really hard to put our finger on one thing. It could be injuries, it could be final or cup final fever. People sort of not hesitant, but are cautious. Just got that in mind. Like, it's probably going to be the biggest game in most of our players' careers at the moment. So I'm not sure if anyone's really won a medal, like a club medal, who actually is in our squad at the moment. Oh no, Trippier won Kieran won the Champions League, but that was about it. Yeah, I mean, so we have got a lot of players who have been starved to success, and I'm sure subconsciously even that they would have an eye on next weekend.
Lascelles lifted the championship trophy a few years ago. How did you forget that?
Yeah, it's not. Well, no one else counts as a trophy, do they?
Yeah, it's nowhere near the same.
No.
But judging off some of the substitutions from the Bournemouth game, obviously we know Joe Willock went off injured with a hamstring injury. There's been no signs of him in training, albeit they might just not be showing him in the footage. Would you expect Gordon to be the natural replacement for him?
Yeah, I think so. That seems to be the logical one, doesn't it? He's the one who come on for an in game. I'm expecting him to not play, and I think I'd expect him not to play in the final as well, to be honest. I think hamstrings are generally at least probably a 2 to 3 week injury. And if he's had to come off, so I'd expect it to be closer to a month than like a 2 weeker. So yeah, it's a good chance for Gordon. I mean, he got that number 10 role, didn't he? In that sort of the free range chicken roll, he sort of ran around. I was really impressed with him. I know Lee sort of mentioned it on our review, the last pod we done, but yeah, I was really impressed with him. I think his energy was really, really good, and he just looks like he wants to get stuck in. I think he's a player that everyone can really warm to. I know a lot of people weren't Toucan on him before we signed him, but I mean, his first 2 appearances, he seems to tick every box that we like. You know what I mean? Like he attacks, he's fast, he takes the game on, he has a crack. He's just everything that we want. With that young, like he's 21, I think. So he's got that youth that he can be coached, and I think he could be molded into a really, really good player in 2 or 3 years' time.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right on that one. And in terms of other injuries, Maxi went off with what looked like some type of leg injury. Knee, I wasn't too sure. And Miggy went off holding his arm or his wrist. Thankfully, they both returned to training this week. So they should be involved in some capacity. I'd imagine both of those would start. Would you reckon?
Yeah, I think I listened to or watched, Eddie's post-game press conference after Bournemouth. Or was it? I don't know if it was an interview anyway. I'm not sure if it was Sky or the with the club channel, but he did say that Willicks was a bit serious, but early indications were that Maxi and Miggy were going to be fine for this weekend. I just think Maxi's just got this thing where he can't complete a full game. Like even like for as long as I can remember, he's always down and he's always just around that time. It's like he just can't be fagged anymore, and I've had enough. So I just want to come off. There's nothing actually wrong with him. He just it looks like he doesn't want to play anymore, or he's just a bit too tired, and that's enough for him. So yeah, I'm actually looking forward. We're not going to get stuck into the whole ASM debate, but
Again,
I think I've settled. Look, I wanted him to go. I think I've been pretty strong is probably the right word to think about that. But I'm happy for him to stay. But he could be a really impactful player off the bench against teams if we need to sort of create something the last 20 minutes of a game. Now, whether or not he's willing to accept that is an entirely different thing. But there's no shame in that. There's definitely a role for him there. And I mean, we are talking about our squad depth is thin, and we're going to try and rectify that in the summer. But I still think he could be someone we can keep around for that role. But if he's not willing to accept it, then ship him off.
Yep, totally agree on that one. Now, the other big call is if fully fit, does Wilson start over Isak or vice versa for you?
Yeah, it was interesting, wasn't it? I'm not sure if you've seen that. I've been I've been pretty busy today at work, so I haven't really been across social media. But I did see a quote that, like a screenshot of a quote that bobbed up about him, and he said he felt a bit sore, maybe at training, maybe around 80% or something like that, and he sort of got to the stage now where he doesn't want to risk playing like that and get injured like he has in the past, thinking he might get through it, and he ends up coming off after half an hour, and he's cooked himself real good, and he's out for weeks and months rather than maybe just missing one game, get himself right and stuff like that. And as we know, the club are really cagey with their injuries at the moment, or well, they have been since Eddie took over. So hopefully it is nothing sinister. I personally, I'd start him. I mean, he did score in his last game. I know he's been underwhelming, but Isak gives us that punch off the bench if needed as well. Because we'll get into Liverpool a bit soon, I'm sure, but they're sort of starting to get all their guys back from injury and stuff like that as well. So we're going to have to hopefully have him fit. Even it might be the reverse, Craig. It might be Isak starts and Wilson comes off the bench for that punch of towards the end of the game. And hopefully we're in a stage where we don't need to win the game, but he's a really smart player, can draw free kicks and stuff like that, and could help us manage the game at the end if we need to.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be an interesting choice to see who is up top come 5:30 or 3:30 or 4:30 for you. I reckon Isak will start personally. I just think Wilson, he just want to maintain fitness purely for that final. He will not want to miss that for love and the money. So if he thinks any little shot of a doubt that he's not 100%, he'll have to either be benched or just not be part of the game whatsoever. But we will see. Hopefully he's 100% because we do need that strength of depth in the squad itself and on the bench too. Now,
we'll probably find out in the press conference, won't we? Worth a pinch of shit. Should ask if Wilson's just available. He doesn't have to say if he's starting. Just if he's available, that's all we need. I'm sure. I don't think most fans would care who starts, to be honest, which is a good thing to have.
I think you're right on that one. I think so. The press conference will be tomorrow night for us, so tomorrow morning in the UK, Friday.
Yeah.
So we'll keep an eye on that on the socials and share any news as it comes through. But getting on to Liverpool now, it's probably been the strangest season ever for them in terms of where they're on the league position based on expectation, because everyone expected them to be up around Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, not Chelsea, sorry, Man United and us. But Liverpool and Chelsea, they've struggled big time. I know you probably not followed Liverpool a whole lot this season, and obviously maybe watched a few of their early games or anything. But besides the injuries, is there anything that you can put the finger on that may have caused their downturn in form?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's pretty obvious. Their ceiling. I mean, they've got a ceiling, so they can't be as good as what everyone else has. So unfortunately, I mean, that's their lot this year. They've got a ceiling. We haven't got a ceiling, so that's obviously why we are where we are. Ditto Man City and Man United. Chelsea have obviously just spent 50 billion in the January window as well, so they haven't got a ceiling. So, yeah, unfortunately, Liverpool fans are going to have to be enjoying mid-table mediocrity from now on because of their ceiling. Hopefully, hopefully, I mean, someone puts a ceiling on us soon enough, and we can only buy £100 million players and stuff like that. So
it's a shambles, isn't it? You know, literally scraping the bottom of the barrel with the players that they can buy.
Yeah.
It's almost like trying to get Hazam Chowdhury from Leicester on loan, yet we can't afford even the loan fee.
Yeah.
You know, that's when you're scraping the bottom of the barrel, not when you can go buy Darwin Nunez for 100 million euros or whatever it was. There's a slight difference in terms of player quality and spend level there. So, Jurgen, you're a dick.
Yeah. Let us know how Shefki Kuki's going too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Proper
you want to talk about
barrel stuff.
Tell us about your ceilings, Jurgen, please.
And but you can also come back when James Milner starting on his 53rd birthday and he's still whipping in those crosses because I mean he's 38 now, oldest player in the Premier League I think he is. Hell of a player. Massive respect for Jimmy Milner. He's pretty much won everything in the game. But like a few of the Liverpool players, his time's coming to an end. So you've got James Milner, Jordan Henderson, and Oxlade-Chamberlain. They're three players who've got a vast experience, but no longer probably got the legs in the game. And probably this may be their last season at the club. But they're the players they haven't relied on because of the injuries. And you'd think our youth and speed should be enough to get back through those and just tire them out as the game goes on, you reckon?
Yeah, I don't know. I was looking at the injury list last night, and I think Thiago and Luis Diaz was basically the only players of note on their injury list now. So they've got a lot of them back.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it would be really interesting to see because obviously they're probably going to they're never going to give up, but I think they're at a stage now where they might have to start prioritizing what they want to do because they've got Real Madrid next week in the Champions League. Is it not Real Madrid? Who they got?
No,
it is Real Madrid. Yeah. So do they get you guys like Van Dijk and all that, give them another couple of days training and chuck him in for that Real Madrid game, or do they play him against us? So, yeah, hopefully they do. But, yeah, I'm certainly – I know their season hasn't been what they expected it to be this year, but I'm really wary of them and what they can do, especially with their players coming back.
They've definitely got players who can damage you and hurt you on the counter-attack, as Everton found out. And God knows what Pickford was doing for that first goal, but, you know, that's Pickford in a nutshell.
What the fuck was he thinking?
God knows.
He just forgot there was a game on or something, did he?
Literally bystander. I didn't know what he was doing, but, again, that's Pickford in a nutshell. He's a good shot stopper, but his decision-making is absolutely terrible. And there's no way he can continue to be England's number one with the form Nick Pope's in. absolutely no chance. But that's a different discussion for a different day on that one. We're going to get into the lineups now. We're going to start with the home team. That's us. So we've pretty much gone for the same as last week, minus Gordon coming in for the injured Willock. Now, at the back, you got it's pretty much a solid staple. So Pope in goal. Dan Burn, who I pretty much slated on the Bournemouth game. He had an absolute shocker. So hopefully that's his one and only poor performance of the season. And he's back on form. And next to Dan Burn, we've got the best Dutch defender in the Premier League in Sven Botman. Fabian Shaw next to him. Trips is the captain. ASM on the left with Gordon next to him. Joe Linton and Longstaff taking up the other two spaces in the middle. Miggy out on the right. And we've gone with Wilson up top on this one. Again, I don't think we'd really care who starts, whether it be Wilson or Isak. But if that was the starting lineup come kickoff, you'd be more than happy with that, considering suspensions and injuries as well, Keegan?
Yeah, I think it's probably the best. It's probably the best lineup we can put out, given the circumstances we've got at the moment. It'd just be interesting to see if they do play with that three in the midfield, or they sort of play how they did against Bournemouth. You know how Gordon just played that. I was going to say the Steve Bruce role. Just give him a pat on the head and go ahead and run around, mate. Just go and have some fun. But I think it was a little bit more structured than that. But it'd be interesting. At least if whatever they're going to do, I think the positive thing is they've got a whole week of training to work on it. So you'd imagine last week leading up to Bournemouth, it would have been whatever their pattern of play is. It's with the three midfielders and maybe a bit of interchanging amongst the three of them. Like if Longstaff drops back to a 6 or John Linton drops back to a 6. So I think he did that a couple of times before Willock went off as well. But now, if the way they're going to, or however they're going to play, they're going to have a whole week to actually work on it and get a sort of bit of certainty with what role, what players playing and stuff like that. So I think that's a positive. I no doubt they would have actually worked on different scenarios and different formations. If you know what I mean, if this happens, then we're going to go into this and guys can sort of adjust on the fly. But yeah, I think it's important to have that whole week of training as well. What do you reckon?
I totally agree with you on that one. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting. I think we'll find out probably the first 15, 20 minutes how they're going to set up, maybe even earlier, depending on how the game unfolds. Now, we did touch on Gordon earlier on. Now, he could make his home start for the club. That'll put a little bit of fire in his belly, but also the competition, the opposition. He's obviously got a little bit of needle there coming from his background, being an Everton boy through and through. So he'll want to put on a good performance. Especially considering they just come back off that 2-0 win against Everton. So he's not going to be feeling too good about that one. But I think that squad, you're absolutely right, it is the strongest 11 we can put out with who we've got available. One other key thing as well, Lewis Miley got a quick mention of Eddie, saying that he's probably going to make the Liverpool bench again based off just who's available. There's a 16-year-old being thrust into that type of scenario where you're making the bench for the first team against Liverpool in the Premier League. Either that's going to build the character or it's going to break them. But Eddie's definitely seeing something in this young lad from Whitley Bay, I think it is. What's your talk on Lewis Miley? And do you think he's got that potential, the fact he's making the squad so soon?
It's crazy, isn't it? Like, man, I remember when I was 16, I was bloody chasing skirt and eating dirt. Like, this guy's on the bench for a Premier League club, a top 4 Premier League club. Like, it's bloody mental. So, I mean, we're at the stage now where whatever the coaching staff do, they have our full trust. They've done nothing. They've done nothing for us to suggest that not to trust them with whatever they do. Now, obviously, they've seen him in training, and the good thing is when you do train, if you're a young kid and you do train with the first team, from a coaching perspective, you can actually see how they compete and how they match up with these players that are top 4 Premier League players at the moment. Like, that's a reality. So if this guy gets in and trains with them and holds their own, he's more than deserving of a spot on the bench because he's the future. Like, I'd rather him on the bench than a Ryan Fraser or a Matt Ritchie, to be honest, because
Fair enough.
Like at the end of the day, they're probably going to be gone in 4 months' time, and this kid could hopefully be around for another 15, 20 years. You know what I mean?
That'd be yeah, that'd be incredible.
Yeah, but if, like I said, if he's doing enough for the coaching staff to suggest that at training, and like you listen to any player and stuff, their training is hot, like it's red hot at training. Like he said 100 times, intensity is our identity, and you train how you play. So we'll remember the reports of his first few sessions when John Joe was falling asleep at 6 o'clock at night. Didn't ever make the bloody nightly news. So, I mean, if this kid's doing enough of training to earn himself a spot on the bench, then he bloody deserves to be there, in my opinion.
Nah, totally agree. And massive player for the future, and one hopefully we might see sooner rather than later making his Premier League debut. So we're going to move on to the Liverpool squad now. Now, this lineup is based on the same one that beat Everton 2-0 in their last Premier League game. One big omission, I'll just go through the squad straight away. So we've got Robertson, Gomez, as I've spelled it there, not Gomez. Matip, Trent Alexander-Arnold making the back four, with Alisson in goal. And I've no idea how you pronounce him on the left. Do you want to have a crack of that one, Keegan?
Yeah, I think it's Bishetic.
Bishetic, right? We'll go with Bishetic.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I heard that.
Bread from Sweden or something, but hey ho.
Yeah, I'll definitely butter it up and have it with me tea.
Yeah, absolutely. Fabinho in the middle, Jordan Henderson on the right, taking the captain's armband. Darwin Nunez, Gakpo, and Mo Salah up front. Now, you got to remember that ceiling that Liverpool have, that is easily a £200 million forward line up there. So that ceiling's quite high, regardless of what ceiling it is they've got. And those three players, I know Nunez has had his critics this season. He's been more missed than hit since he made his big money signing. Gakpo had a brilliant World Cup and was brilliant over in the Eredivisie, where he scored goals for fun. And Salah, again, he's probably been a bit more missed than hit. But we all know the damage and diving he can do when he gets anywhere in and around the box. Now, that lineup there, there's one key omission, as I mentioned just before, and that's probably the second best Dutch defender in the Premier League in Virgil van Dijk. If you're right in what you were saying about Klopp resting key players for the Real Madrid Champions League game, he's probably their biggest key player that's omitted from that squad, you reckon?
Yeah, absolutely. They don't have another defender like him, do they?
Nah. He's an absolute tank of a defender, and he is probably the best in the league when he's on form. But Sven Botman is showing him how it's done. Only 0 league defeats for Sven Botman this season when he started or took part in a game. Hopefully that will continue in the week. But looking at that 11 there, where do you see the dangers coming from or any potential weaknesses for Liverpool?
Yeah, well, like you said, their ceiling's bloody like the Sistine Chapel, isn't it? Like it's ridiculous. But like as much shit as the front three have got, I mean, Salah's been pretty ordinary this season compared to what he's been like the last few years as well. I mean, he still plays at a good level, and I mean, if you let him off the chain, he'll bite you. But yeah, that front three, like I know, Nunez hasn't obviously had the best of starts like you mentioned, but man, his wheels are really good. And when you've got pacey players like that against a team like us who like to really sort of impose ourselves at home on the game and like to get forward, I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see Trippier and Burn sort of how they handle Nunez and Salah. Burn not so much, but Trippier, does he bomb on as much as he does, knowing that he's going to leave a mountain of spacing behind him for Nunez to sort of go through, and he's pretty quick from what I've seen as well. So it's going to be a really interesting sort of tactical battle. So I think
Nunez was rated the fastest player in the Premier League until Gordon took that mantle off him by about 0.3 of a kilometre an hour. So there's a lot of pace in both sides. And I think Miggy's going to have to be his usual track back, happy to defend as well as go forward type of personality, because he could have his hands full with Nunez there. Hopefully Nunez has one of his off days because then that just means we can bomb forward that little bit more. Gakpo, he got his debut goal. His first goal for Liverpool against Everton, again in that 2-0 win. And Jordan Henderson, he'll get a good round of applause from the Geordie faithful. And Sean Longstaff will be shaking his hand before the start. I'd imagine a little bit of a tighter grip on that handshake at the beginning. A little bit of a dead stare in the eyes and maybe calling the odd mac and twat or whatever, you know. A little bit of needle there. You know, Jordan Henderson's one of the good guys in football, but we can't forget his association with those the other side of the water. What's your thoughts on him in this squad? And do you think he's run his race in terms of his legs are no longer there and he won't be part of the Liverpool squad for much longer?
I think he could be similar to Milner, I reckon. He'll still be around. He'll basically be around for as long as he wants to be around. And when he's had enough, he'll just tell them that I'm done. But yeah, I think he's earned enough credits to sort of stick around. I was just looking at that too, Craig. I'm not a really wacky prediction sort of person like your good self, but with Salah and Alexander Arnold down that right hand side, and Trent's obviously had his critics sort of a lot of the year for his lack of defending. Being a defender, he's more interested in attacking and stuff like that. I mean, at home, this game could be absolutely wide open for ASM, couldn't it?
I was going to get to that, aren't I?
Yeah, like, oh, sorry to steal your shit, but I just sort of come up looking at it now. Like, I mean, Bruno's back obviously next week. If he plays well on the weekend, he could be starting the cup final. You know what I mean? So Gordon's obviously going to be cup tied with Everton, so he won't play that game. So Bruno will come back, and it could be a Bruno, Joel Linton, Longstaff sort of midfield. And if he can do some damage, and he could get his confidence up as well. And
Yeah.
I reckon there's going to be a lot of space for him there to exploit. And even if Henderson does tuck in and defend, I mean, you can send him to the shops for some fish and chips. Like he could like literally torch him. And I mean, if Kyle Walker can't keep up with him, old bloody Pops Henderson won't be able to get near him either. So it could be a really watch this space for ASM this weekend, I reckon. This
could
is
be.
It's a. I don't want to be hyperbolic or anything like that, but it could be a really do or die game for him.
No, you're absolutely right, because he's on the cusp of falling out of the team altogether. I know Eddie said he is an integral part of the squad, but not an integral part of the starting 11, which is a big difference. Huge difference, especially for a player of ASM's ego, because all players have got egos, whether they like to admit it or not. And I think his is that little bit more inflated. We'll get onto the league table now. So just going to get this slide up. So league table and the form, we sit fourth, played 22 games on 41 points. Liverpool, they sit ninth, and they have played 21 games, so they've got one game less than us, but they're on 32 points. So it's a 9-point difference. And in terms of where they are in the league, Liverpool's position is well justified. I believe ours is well justified based off how both teams have played this season. Going into this game, is this a must-win game, you reckon?
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? I mean, you look at our form. Even our last 5, we've had more D's than a hooker on Valentine's Day. So we sort of need to start winning to not only sort of cement our spot in the top 4, but just to get a bit of confidence back. I think a lot of our stuff, we seem not devoid of confidence, but we just don't have that sizzle that we did pre-World Cup anymore, do we? And I just can't see Tottenham, Liverpool and Chelsea being as shit as what they have been for the rest of the season. Like, I know Liverpool have been crippled by injuries and they're going to start getting them back. So, I mean, they beat us. They're only, nearly 2 games behind us then. So it's sort of, and yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot this week, and I'll be interested to hear your thoughts as well. Where did you have us at the start of the season? What were you going to be happy with?
In our preseason,
just for the league, yeah.
I would have said top 8. More than happy with top 8. Top 10 would have been a good achievement as well.
So I think, because you know when people say oh, like it's not where we expect it to be at the start of the year. So, like, whatever happens, happens. But, like, so I think you should be able to change. Like, you should be able to change during the year. So, if we finish ninth now, like, I think that's a failure from where we are.
I'd agree with that.
Like, yeah, like you can't just be happy. I think we've shown enough for the first 22 games of the season that we do deserve where we are. Like, if like Brighton finish above us or Fulham finish above us, that's nearly a failure. Like in the season, how we've been, like we should be better than Brighton and we should be better than Fulham. Like and Brentford, like Brentford are 8th. Like, come on,
Yeah,
we should be better
they're
than
in a
them as
whirlwind
well.
season, aren't
So I know we aren't losing, and I understand that, and that's a good thing we aren't losing, but we're not winning either, and we're not really playing particularly well, especially since the World Cup. We've rarely played well, and I know everyone points to the fact at the start of the year about we sort of went through that patch, but we were playing well in that we just weren't winning, and everyone was saying some team was going to cop it because we were playing well and the goals were going to go in. But at the moment, we're not winning, but we're not playing well. I think most sort of regular fans would agree that we aren't playing well. So we really do need to get back on track and try and get a win. I mean, like I said, get a win now. Where what would that be? What's that? 44. Well, we'd be 12 points clear of Liverpool if we can beat them on the weekend, which is
yeah,
massive.
that's huge. And again, Liverpool do still have that game in hand, so getting that 12-point advantage is going to be a must. And potential negative point here: if we do lose, Tottenham win, then we drop out of the top 4. How big of a mental block do you think that's going to put on some of the players coming into the game next week? I know it's not a league game; it's a league
Yeah, no, yeah. See,
final.
it's different. I thought I treat cup games differently, and I said the same when we played Southampton for that semi-final. I know they were bottom of the league, but it doesn't mean shit in the cup. Like, what are you going to do? You're not going to drop points or anything like that. It's just a two-legged tie. You got to try and win
Aye,
both ties, really. So next week we'll have a bumper week next week on the channel, but we've just got to win next week. It doesn't matter if we lose. It doesn't affect our league position or anything like that. Sure, it'd be pretty shit if we did lose, but we've got to just get ourselves right for that game. So I don't really think what happens. It'd be great to win. Like, let's not beat around the bush. And we want to go into the game. We want to win, and we want to win all our home games. But if we do lose, it's not the end of the world, and it shouldn't sort of affect what happens at Wembley next weekend.
So if we do win, we can't move up a position. We can't overtake Man United, albeit we do have a game in hand on those as well. But we can potentially pull away from Everton, Brighton, who sit in 5th and 6th, respectively. Pulling away that gap is going to, again, have another big positive on how the season potentially unfolds for us. In finishing top 4, massively overachieved for the season. League Cup final, probably overachieved where we wanted to be for the season as well. So yeah, this game for me is a must-win game. Another draw it's not a defeat, so it's still another point towards the end of the season, another point towards maybe the points total, which the club will never divulge in terms of what their potential points goal would be. But you'd think another draw is just going to be a setback in terms of overall confidence and everything like that. So I do think it is a must-win game. And we haven't beaten Liverpool at home since the 15-16 season when Martin Skirtle and a certain Gini Wijnaldum scored goals. So Skirtle with an own goal and Gini Wijnaldum, can't remember his goal actually, but it was part of the 2-0 win. We've had a few losses and a few draws during that time there. Liverpool's
A few
away form,
hidings
we've
as
only won
well.
2 games already this season. So yeah, 2 away wins only so far this season for Liverpool. A few draws, few losses. So their away form's not great. Our overall form's not great, but yet it's still better than Liverpool's. Liverpool have got 4 points from the last 5 games. We've got 7. So that is a bonus. So that gap is increasing on there. But that 3 points this weekend, it would just be absolutely massive for us, and it keeps Liverpool well behind us in terms of where they need to be. Now, there's the big one for you. Your prediction for the weekend.
All right, I'm back.
You want a
I'm
goal
back.
scorer off here as well? Because your
I'm back.
predictions
So
lately have been bang on to the point where you
yeah,
actually forfeited the result last weekend.
yeah, it was playing. It was playing on my conscience and my mental health, and I couldn't live with the burden anymore. So I just had to just take a break, take a step away. But I'm back. I'm going for a Desmond 2-2.
2-2, another draw.
Yeah.
I'm going to put a positive spin on this, and I think we'll go for a 2-0 win. I think
I
it's
hope
going to
you're
be
fucking
very
right.
similar performance to the Arsenal end of season home game last season. I think that's the type of performance Eddie's going to want. I think this is the game he's looking forward to try and get again, I mentioned at the start of the pod, a little bit of revenge. And there's nothing better than getting revenge on the red or blue part of Merseyside. There's always been that little bit of needle, a bit of rivalry on there. And I do think it's such a big game, not just for the 3 points, but for what the game it leads into as well in terms of overall confidence. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 win. But let us know in the comments what you think your prediction for the game is going to be, whether you're a Newcastle fan, a Liverpool fan, or whether you're just a neutral who likes watching what we do. Put a comment below. Give us a like, give us a thumbs up. But more importantly, don't forget to subscribe and visit the Toon Under shop, and you can buy the shirt that Keegan is wearing, pointing that way now. You can get that shirt along many more. And again, stuff like that helps us out massively. And don't forget to become a channel member as well. You can get all of our audio stuff on your favorite podcast channels too, so like Spotify, Apple Music, that sort of thing. So again, if you want to join us on the audio site, again, leave us a comment there. But that will wrap everything up for today. I'll say thanks, Keegan, and I'll let you get back under the aircon because I know you're just in your garage right now, probably with just a desk fan, and you're probably sweating your
I haven't even got the
tips off right
fan.
now.
I had to take it. I had to take the fan down because I had to move all this shit out of my van. So my garage is an absolute tip at the moment. So I don't even have a fan with a mortgage at the moment. So might have a quick cool shower before I hop into bed.
No, I would think I'm going to do exactly the same thing. But thanks for everybody who is watched or listened on YouTube and again on the socials. Remember, give us a thumbs up, give us a subscribe. Follow both me and Keegan on Twitter. You can see our Twitter handles on display there. And Keegan's trying to point to.
There you go.
Yep, one of that one. And I'll go. Yeah, it's on that side. Just down there for me. So, and also follow us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Just do a search for Toon Under Pod. But again, thanks, Keegan, for coming on. I'll let you get your cold shower, and we will see you on what is going to be the Liverpool review. And we've also got, for the very first time next week, the League Cup preview, where every single member of the pod is going to be on the channel at the same time. That is literally a world first. So keep an eye on that one. That's all coming soon. But again, Keegan, thanks very much for coming. Remember, like, comment, and subscribe. And everyone have a good night. And come on, the lads. 3 points.
Go, boys. Hit the thumb.